Okay, hello everyone. Thanks for tuning in to this special Thursday night training webinar. I've got a very special guest with me that's going to be on here tonight. My name's Chris Kent. Appreciate you guys tuning in tonight. I'm going to have a lot of good stuff for you. You're going to get to hear from one of my favorite people in the company, Mr. Pete Olsen, tonight. I want to do a quick sound check before we get started. If you guys could just give me a little, raise your hand if you can hear me okay. All right, fantastic. Awesome. Let's see if I can get my screen back up here. All right, let me see if I can get my special guest out here as well. Hey, Pete, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Chris. Can you hear me okay?
Awesome, buddy. Yeah, I can hear you just fine. Thanks a lot for being on here tonight. Just want to tell everybody what we're going to cover. First of all, as I mentioned, we're going to share with you how you can create. Oh, hold on. Yeah, we're going to be talking to Mr. Pete Olsen. So get a notepad, guys, and take notes. I'm going to get to my notepad because I'm actually going to take notes tonight as well. But one of the things that we're going to be sharing with you tonight is I'm going to have Pete share a story with you and then also tell you exactly how he got to Cabo. You know, he was the first person in the entire company that qualified for Cabo, and you know, it's one of those things that, you know, you see nobody's doing it, and then all of a sudden one person does it, and then other people see it can be done. And I think you qualified for Cabo, was it Sunday night, Pete?
Yes. Yep.
So Sunday night you qualified, and then bam, right behind you, Scott Stansfield comes and qualifies last night. So now we've got two people qualified. I know Dave Angelo is right on your heels. He's about to qualify. So it's amazing once one person breaks through that barrier, how it just kind of snowballs after that. But, you know, Pete, I want you to share with people your story. Tell everybody on here, first of all, how you got into Numis. And then I want you to share with people once we get to how you got involved with Numis. I also want you to share a little bit about what you've experienced in Numis, because I think most people think that, you know, people that are successful in this industry, it just happens overnight, you know. And what I try to get across to people is that it just never, ever happens overnight. There just are no such things as overnight successes. I mean, yeah, there are, but it's kind of like winning the lottery. You know, it just doesn't happen every day, and it's 1 in a million shot. I mean, if you want to be successful, it takes long, hard work. And so why don't you start off by sharing with everybody how you even got into Numis?
Sure, Chris, it'd be my pleasure. Just a little bit about me. I grew up back east in Maryland and graduated from the academy. After graduating from Annapolis, brought me out to the West Coast to San Diego, California, where I was a naval officer for 5 years, met my wife, and we had kids there, and went into corporate America, disliked that intensely, and really started the entrepreneurial career in 1999 when we moved up to Kalispell, Montana, and I became a real estate investor. Did that for 10 years till about 2008, beginning 2009, and we got hit really, really hard as the national economy collapsed. We got hit very hard financially, both in the stock market and our real estate holdings. And, you know, Katie and I, you know, we didn't know which way we were going to go on this. Because I was thinking, gosh, do I have to go back into corporate America and live that whole experience again, which I absolutely hated. But, you know, luckily for me, a gentleman by the name of Dave Angelo found me in earlier 2010. You know, it took me a while. I was one of those that made that dreadful mistake of waiting 8 or 9 months. But I got in, ironically, January 1, 2011. The reason I got in, my wife got me some silver bullion for Christmas. And it reminded me about Dave, and I said, you know, I'm going to call this guy Dave back, because I think he has a good program there. I think that's what we should do, and she thought it was a great idea, so we did that. And got in January 1, 2011, and, you know, as you said, it wasn't fast. The success didn't come quickly. I mean, I was putting in a few people, but my problem was that I was doing it my own way instead of doing the way of, you know, what Dave taught, you know, in Tiger Leadership, and you know, it was different back then. You know, it was a different deal. We didn't have everything that we have today, and as Jake always talks about, Numis was where it was supposed to be 2.5 years ago. We didn't have Promote, Call, and Send and all the systems and the trainings and all that incredible stuff that we have today. But what happened was I was at a Numis University 11 months later, and I really didn't even want to go to that second Numis University, but I did, and that was really where the light bulb came on. I just made a decision right then and there. I'd heard a couple of people say some things, and I said, that's going to be the start of me becoming a top leader in the company. And so I just never missed another event, ever. And whether it be a trip or Numis University or what we call net meetings now and national sales conventions, so on and so forth. And through steady, consistent, persistent effort, never stopping, never giving up, knowing the only way that you can lose in this game is by quitting. Through attrition and through some other things and getting better, as Jim Rohn says, just simply getting better. Some great things have happened, and listening to you, the founders, and all your great advice, and Dave Angelo with all his great training and tied to leadership.
Well, that's awesome, buddy. And I want to make a point of people understanding exactly where you were at and how you came along. So you got involved January 1st of, did you really get involved on New Year's Day?
I did.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, most people are recovering and you're out joining a business, but you know what? That's
right.
A lot of people kind of set those New Year's resolutions and they say, hey, I'm going to do something different this year. This year is going to be better than last year. And that's awesome. So you joined on New Year's Day of 2011?
11, correct.
11. So, here you are, you're in Numis for about, 10, 11 months. You had already been to a Numis University, and then, Dave says, hey, you need to go to this next Numis University, and what do you say to him at that point?
Yeah, I said, I was asking Dave, I said, well, what are we gonna learn in this Numis U that we don't already know or that I've experienced in the past or from this past Numis U?
And what I want people to understand about you saying that to Dave is that you are really saying that as a person that 11 months into the deal, you weren't really having a lot of success or making a lot of money, right?
Correct.
And that's usually what happens, I think, is most people, because they haven't had success, because they are not making money, they think, why do I need to go learn about what I already learned about, And,
right.
It's like Larry says when he teaches, every time you hear it at a different level. And I think when you came back to that second Numis University, you heard a lot of the same information, but you heard it at a different level. Would that be a correct assessment?
Absolutely. And I heard some great things again and heard it at a different level. And for me, I was just tired. I always joke with Dave about, at Numis University, the way we used to have it was the first 3 rows were 4-star managers and above. And it used to absolutely drive me crazy that I wasn't there yet. And I just said, I am never going to another event, until I'm a 4-star manager or better. I'm going to make this happen. And that's really where the whole transformation came, because I was tired of being mediocre in the back, and I just said I'm going to truly dedicate myself and listen and learn and be at every event and hang around that flagpole because it's absolutely critical. And
so let's move forward from there. So after that event at Numis University, was that the one in Las Vegas or the one after Las Vegas?
That was in Vegas, yes.
So that was the one in Las Vegas. I remember it very clearly because I think that's the first time that you and I actually met and got a chance to spend some time with you.
Right.
But, so after that Numis University, it was just instant success, right? You just took off and started making a whole bunch of money, right?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
See, I think that's what people think is that people think that once you have that breakthrough, that now all of a sudden things just take off, and they don't realize that you still got to go put in the work. And, talk a little bit about, from that point on, which was now we're talking about the end of 2011, and so you're going through all of 2012, a whole nother year where you're seeing some moderate success, I know, but it really didn't seem like you kind of hit your stride and really started seeing a lot of success until really this year. Really is what and correct me if I'm wrong, but I know you got to the level of 4-star manager and so forth, but you really didn't go to the next level, it seems like, until like right now this year. And a lot of people just aren't willing to stick it out for 2 years to see success. But so talk about that next 12 to 13 months during 2012 and how you were building them. And again, you were having some moderate success, but it seems like now it's gone to a whole different level.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think before I get into that, Chris, you make such a good point. So many people want it, yesterday, and that's a great desire to have, but just know that it takes that steady, consistent effort. If you're in corporate America, are you going to be executive vice president in a year and a half? Probably not. You're going to have to work your way up and deal with all the nonsense. And so, 5 years, not looking up for 5 years, I think is a very small price to pay. I know Larry always talks about 3 years, but yeah, I mean, it's just that steady, consistent effort. So what happened was in 2012, I just started really plugging in, and I started using, Dave's training and utilizing Dave pretty much for everything on, anytime I had a chance to do a 3-way call, I was in Dave's grill. I was texting him 24/7. I said, hey, I got someone watching a video at noon, 2, 4, 8. Are you going to be available? So every time it came up, I would text him and say, okay, guys, go on video now. Will you be available at such and such time, Eastern Standard Time? And he'd get back to me, and that way I knew. And by utilizing the 3 ways, that really helped. That brought my business to the next level because I heard Dave speak. I heard the way he phrased things. I heard the way he answered certain questions, and that got me better. And by hearing that dozens and dozens, which turned into over 100 times, I was able to parrot and answer the same things that he would say. But I still utilize them today because utilizing the 3-way call is so critical. It's not the process that the answer. It's just the fact that you're bringing on a third party that you edify properly. And
talk a little bit about that because, I mean, when I look at our company and I see the success that people are having, obviously you and Dave Angelo have, formed just an awesome team together, and you guys are really kind of the king of the 3-way calls. And, I think it's one of those critical things that you have to become good at in this business, in this industry. If you want to have a lot of success building a big team, then you have to become good at the 3-way call. And not only doing 3-way calls, but knowing how to do 3-way calls, knowing how the edification process works, knowing how and Dave he's a master at it because I do calls with Dave all the time. Dave calls me and, the call will go like this. He'll say, hey, listen, Joe, I was really lucky. Chris was just coming out of a meeting. He's getting ready to go into another one. He's got another call he's got to do in a little bit, but I grabbed him real quick. Here's the founder of the company. Joe, this is Chris. This is Joe. Joe, this is Chris. I'll let you guys speak for a minute. And then I'll just have some small talk with the guy. I'll say, hey, Joe, how are you? Where are you from? What do you do for a living? You got any kids? You like to play golf? And I'll just try to get to know the guy so that he sees that I'm just an average person and I'm just a normal person just like him or her. And then I tell that person, I said, man, are you lucky? And obviously Dave has edified me to him or her. And then I come back and I say, man, are you lucky to be talking to Dave today? He's one of our top leaders in Numis. Just a guy that you can really, really depend on to help you build your business. And so I edify Dave back, and I give him that edification from the founder of the company. But it doesn't matter if it's the founder of the company or a 5-star to a 4-star to a 4-star to a 5-star. It works in unison no matter what level you're at in the company. And I know that you and Dave just do that. You guys are great at 3-way calls. Talk about 3-way calls a little bit more in detail than I've talked about them so far, And why do you think they work so well?
Yeah, absolutely. Because everything that we do in a three-way call is posture and perception. And what I mean by that is, when I'm going to get Dave on a three-way call and someone has questions, the general rule of thumb that we use is I'll answer one, maybe two questions, and then I'll bring it over to Dave if it's someone that's going to, I think going to ask a lot of questions. And before I bring it over to Dave or even merge him onto the call, I'll say, hey, Bob, look, we're really, really lucky. The top leader in our company, Dave Angelo, has a couple minutes here, and I'd like to introduce him to you, and he can even answer some of your other questions. So hold on 1 minute. I don't ask him if he has time. I don't ask the prospect if he has a few extra minutes or if he wants to. I just say, hey, here's what we're going to do. You're so lucky, one of the top leaders. And I really build it up. And so I get Dave, I call Dave, and the first thing I do is clear the time. Always very, very important. Hey, Dave, it's Pete. I was wondering, do you have a minute? And clearing the time is critical. And he'll say, yeah, hang on 1 second, Pete. And he'll say, yeah, great. What do you have? And I very simply say, I have a gentleman on the phone I'd like to introduce you to before I turn it over to you. Bob, as I mentioned to you, David is one of the top leaders in the company. Previously, he owned a mortgage and title company in all 50 states. He started, ran, and sold this multi-million-dollar business. He came into Numis and rose right to the top. And David, Bob is from Texas. I know him from Facebook. And the purpose of the call is for you to answer a few of his questions and to introduce the two of you. So with that, David, this is Bob. Bob, this is Mr. Dave Angelo. And it's really important as you're ending it, everything is edification for David, not edification for the prospect. And I think that's the biggest mistake that people make. They want to blow up this prospect, and they leave the upline sitting there like he's the small guy. And it's just the opposite. It's just the reverse. You want the prospect to think that this upline is next to God himself. And that's the way you want to leave it. And that point, when I pass it over to Dave, I hit mute, and I don't say a single word ever unless Dave or Chris or whoever calls me out and asks me to come back on the phone.
And I think that's so important, what you just said, and it just needs to be reiterated. You guys see I'm taking notes here. I've got, three-way calls. If you're not doing them, you're missing the boat. Edification is the key. You have to edify. You have to edify the person that they're doing the three-way call, not the prospect. The prospect does not get edified. And that's just like you said, Pete, that's the mistake so many people do when they call me. They say, can you do a three-way call, Chris? I say, yeah, sure. And I jump on the phone and they're like, Chris, this person's great. They've done this. They've been in this company. They had this and that. And then they go, here you go. Can you answer some of their questions? And I'm like, sure, and they haven't edified me at all, so it puts me in a defensive mode already. Now I'm here to answer this superstar network marketer who's never really made any money but thinks he's a superstar. I'm here to answer his questions about my company, and I've got to defend the company instead of the other way around. So right. You're so right in knowing how to properly do a three-way call is the key to their success, but they really are magical if you can get good at them. And I can assure you that Pete was not good at three-way calls 2 years ago. Is that true, Pete?
Oh no, I was. I've been sternly corrected and disciplined by David 1,000 times. So no, it took work. And Dave,
and you had to do it. I mean, it's like you said, you did hundreds of three-way calls with Dave before you came, and you guys are like masters at it now. And what people have to understand is if you want to be successful in this business, you just have to master a few skills, and this is one of them. Three-way calls is one of the skills that you have to master if you really want to get good at network marketing. But there's only a handful of skills. It's like Larry says, it's only a handful of things that you really got to become good at. And if you're not good at doing three-way calls with your upline, you should make it a point that you're going to get good at it, and you have to be good at it if you want to be successful and you want to make a lot of money in this industry. So kind of with this webinar tonight, Pete, I didn't even know where this was going or where it was going to take us, but I'm so glad that we covered three-way calls because I think it's something that doesn't get covered enough and we don't do enough training on it. And hopefully the people that are on this webinar are getting a lot out of it. Guys, so far, have you gotten a lot out of this, out of the discussion with Pete so far? Raise your hand if you're getting a lot out of this training. All right. Thanks, Lance. Appreciate that. Don, thank you very much. Gary, Jason, awesome. Lorraine. Hey, it's my whole entire team there. Matt, Nikki, Patrick, thank you. Pierre, thank you very much. So, Pete, Robert, thanks. Take us down the road a little bit more. And now you're getting really good. All of 2012, you're obviously practicing three-way calls with Dave. He's yelling at you and telling you what you're doing wrong over and over again. And, so you're mastering this skill. So bring us now into 2011 where at some point you now become this master recruiter that you are now turning into. How did this happen? You must have found some magic dust, or you must be running some ads or something, or doing something that nobody else is doing. What happened? What changed?
Yeah, what happened actually started. It actually started back in 2012, and Dave started having some online boot camps for the Tiger leadership team, and some online boot camps of really how to properly engage people on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And at first I was thinking, well, I've got at that point 300-some thousand followers on Twitter. What am I going to learn about engaging someone on social media? And boy, was I wrong. So I of course I didn't say anything. I just shut up and listened. And because I already went through that phase, right? So everything he said jump, I said how high. He said run, I said how fast. So we went through this process and really learned I guess you could very simply call it an online boot camp, a series of questions that I'm able to ask people that I meet on those three platforms or anywhere online and start a conversation and take that conversation from online to offline and ultimately get them on the overview. And now, of course, with what we have with Promote Call Send, take them from online to getting them registered for free silver. That's what I do now. And the registering for free silver, once you take them there, that process gets them to looking at an overview and the videos on numerous. So
take us.
That's
back.
what really made the difference, Chris.
Well, let's go back then, because I think that probably everybody that's listening to this webinar tonight, and certainly in my notes here, you'll see I wrote online boot camp, and I know what that is. I understand what it entails because I've been through it myself, and I think it's very compelling, and it's it is honing your skills and become really good at that. It's not something that all of a sudden, I think you took this boot camp from Dave and now you're this master recruiter on Facebook, but it's learning how to engage people and how to talk to people online. So talk a little bit more about that and tell everybody who's listening tonight, what is that? And maybe take us even through an example or a couple of different examples of how you talk to people on Facebook, because one of the things that we talk about, if you want to be successful in this business, you basically have to get good at three-way calls. You got to get good at talking to people. I mean, there's no way around it. If you want to be successful, you got to talk to people. Well, it seems like if there's 1 billion people on Facebook, that would be a pretty good place to talk to people, right? There's a whole bunch of people there. You got thousands and thousands of friends and people out there. So talk about how do you engage people on Facebook, and how quickly or how much do you just take us through the whole process of engaging them and I guess connecting and communicating and then
Sure.
talk about getting them on the phone and all that stuff. So take us through an example of what you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the simplest way that I do it is, what you post is very important. So I like to post some motivational posters, in different things, something that's uplifting, positive, et cetera, et cetera. And what happens is when you do things like that, you're going to get some likes, some comments, and some shares. Like Chris, you said, you were posting the other day. You posted the happiest place on earth when you guys were down there, and you got like 19 comments and likes and so on and so forth. Well, when someone likes, comments, or shares, that's a lead. Okay, so what I do with that, when someone likes, comments, or shares, I'll say, "Hey Bob, thank you so much for the like, appreciate it. What do you do?" And I simply ask them that question just to start a conversation. And you don't ask him many times, you just let it sit there and wait until he responds. He may respond right then and there. He may respond in an hour. He may respond in a day, or as Dave says, he may respond 2 weeks from today. But it doesn't matter. So when he responds, I have a series of questions. So he says, I'm an engineer. I'll say, great. How long have you done it? And it's just this back and forth conversation. He'll answer that, and I'll say something like, what did you do before? And he'll answer that. And now some of these conversations may stop halfway through, and I may not hear from the person for 3 months. But if you have a ton of these conversations, all at different stages of the question asking, you're going to have a lot of different people closing at different times. And that's what's so powerful. That's what brings in talking to a lot of people. That's what's important. Okay? Not just talking to, well, I talked to 2 people. Well, you've only talked to 2 people the last 2 days. It's going to be tough to work on a lot of numbers. It's a numbers game. So you want to set out a goal to specifically talk to as many people as you can. Maybe it's 10 a day or 20 a day or 5 a day, whatever you can personally do in your schedule, and be consistent with that. So it's really, Chris, just a whole, I guess, laundry list of questions that you ask, and based upon what they tell you, and the whole purpose is to engage in conversation. And when I ask these questions and get to know them, I ultimately will get them over to my Free Silver Now site, and a very simple way to do that is, I'll say, hey, do you like silver? And very few people will ever say, no, I don't like silver. And they'll say, yes, who doesn't? I'll say, fantastic. Well, hey, I appreciate talking to you. Here's some free silver for you. Just go to the site. I work with a company that gives away free silver every day. Just register there, and you'll be eligible to win free silver every single day. And inevitably, my email will ding. And of course, when I get that lead from the Free Silver Now site, I'm gonna do what I love doing the best, is picking up that phone and calling them and starting that promote, call, and send system.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about go into a little bit more detail about and like I said, there's no way in a 30-minute webinar or 45-minute webinar tonight that we're going to be able to cover one of Dave's, 3-week boot camps that he does for Facebook and for social media. But I think we can give people the gist of it, which is, you basically want to connect with people, and the way you do that is through posts. And when people like your post, share your post, or make a comment, that's a lead, and that's an opportunity to engage that person in conversation by sending them a private message, right? You're going to send a private message that's away from everybody else, and you're going to start a conversation with them, correct?
Correct.
Now that could also be, let's forget about posts for a minute, but that could also be somebody has requested you as a friend. Think about all the friend requests that you get on Facebook, right? People that are out there searching you. Well, every time I get a friend request, what I say is, hey, Jason, thanks a lot for the friend request. I really appreciate it. Always looking to connect with like-minded people. By the way, what do you do?
Exactly.
Exactly. Or, hey, thanks for the friend request. I've made some great friends here on Facebook. Always looking to network with like-minded people. By the way, what do you do? And it's just an everyday question that I would ask anybody that I'm trying to become friends with. If I really want to be your friend, if we're really going to be friends, then what do I want to know? I want to know what you do, where you live, what do you like to do, do you have any kids? I want to know everything about you if you're going to be my friend. So I'm going to ask you those questions, and then ultimately I'm going to ask you, how do you like what you're doing? Have you ever thought about doing something else? Are you familiar with network marketing? What experience do you have? Blah, blah, and I'm going to ask them, hey, do you like silver? Great. and I'm going to get onto my page and do exactly what you talked about, Pete. But I think it's so key to understand that there's a lot of different ways to talk to people on Facebook. You know,
And
a lot of times,
just
people
mention to you that it's not only Facebook too. I mean, it can be Twitter if someone retweets one of your tweets, or if someone sends you an @reply on Twitter, or someone sends you a connection on LinkedIn. Same thing. Hey Bob, thanks for the connection, appreciate it. You know, what do you do?
Yeah, I mean, I get a lot of LinkedIn requests all the time. I get LinkedIn requests, you know, 2 or 3 times a week. Well, guys, those LinkedIn requests, when people are requesting to hook up with you and be in your network, that's the time to engage them in conversation. And, you know, like you said, it could be all kinds. I find that, you know, what I do is I go around sometimes when I'm on Facebook on my phone, and I make comments on other people's posts. And if you make a comment on somebody else's post, people will then like your comment. You know, they'll click like, and then I'll look, and that person liked my comment. So, hey, thanks for the like to my comment. By the way, you know, it's just an opportunity to talk to somebody. One of the other things that I've found that, and I've shared this with David myself, you know, we know that, you know, emails, if you look at emails, there's a couple of different types of emails that get passed around the world. We won't talk about one category, but the one category that I know does get passed around more than anything else through emails are jokes, funny things, right? Videos. So, you know, keep it clean and not vulgar, but if you see a funny thing on Facebook, copy that and paste it to your to your timeline, you know, as a post, and you'd be amazed at how many likes you will get to stuff that's funny, like a funny video or a funny quote. So you don't always have to be serious and be Mr. Motivation. You know, lighten it up, have fun. People like being around people that have fun. You know, that's what our company's about anyway, is, you know, not only silver, but traveling and having fun and going on vacation. So be that type of person on Facebook, and you'll see that people will really be attracted to you if you do that. So, so take us through the process, Pete, because I think that, you know, a lot of people think that, hey, it just can't be that easy. I mean, you're just talking to people on Facebook and you're sending out silver, but take us through the process, because, you know, obviously you were the fastest person to qualify for Cabo. Congratulations, buddy.
Thank you.
And take us through what it's been like since we've gotten back from Dallas, because obviously you've been on fire, and you've brought in, I don't know, another 10 or 12 people just since we've been back from Dallas in the last several weeks.
Right, exactly. And it really, I mean, all the magic started with the promote, call, and send after Net 2. I think it was after Net 2, right, Chris? Isn't that when we started at the...
I think so, yeah, after Net 2, yeah.
Right. So that was really when the magic started, and because it gave that simple system, and being a process guy, I like 1, 2, 3 kick, as Jake said, 1, 2, 3 kick, and that makes so much sense when you have something so simple, that I knew that whatever process that was to get, when I say promote that free silver giveaway site, that could be the drop cards that you're handing out all around town, or it could be through Facebook or Twitter, or the guy behind you at the post office or at the grocery store that you talk to. It doesn't matter how you get them there, it's just getting them there. And then, you know, as Dave teaches, calling that lead very quickly after you get that in your email box, as quickly as you possibly can. You know, I still go by and by the teachings of, hey, if I get an email at 11 o'clock at night, that means that person's up. I won't hesitate to call them. And I've often, you know, got someone say, oh, God, I can't believe you called me. I'm up here. I can't sleep, or whatever the case may be. So it necessarily doesn't have to be real late at night like that, but as soon as you possibly can, because you want that as fresh as you can. And you go through that process and thank them, and let them know that you're going to mail them free silver also, get their address, and I let them know I'm going to follow up with them 3 days later, call them back 3 days later, make sure they got the silver, and again, thank them and say, hey, Bob, I was wondering, would you be interested in learning how I'm making money promoting this free silver giveaway simply by mailing out free silver, just like I did with you? And I would say 9 out of 10 say, yes, I would definitely like to know. Because
All
they
right.
just...
Hold on a second. Hold on there, because, I think that's what a lot of people are missing and a lot of people are looking for. So for those of you taking notes out there, I'm going to have Pete say it again one more time. Okay,
Sure.
so you get the people to register. And by the way, however you get people to register, it doesn't matter whether you're doing drop cards, whether you're doing it face-to-face, whether you're doing it through Facebook. However you get people to register, you get them to register. That's the promote part of the three-step process. So you're promoting the website. However you do that. Me, I like talking to people in person. I like, I like giving silver first. I like actually giving them the silver first. The call part, again, that's going to be once they've registered on the site. You're going to call them back to thank them. And then you're going to, you're going to promote, and then you're going to send them silver. Talk about the follow-up, though. After you've sent them silver and they've gotten the silver in the mail, I think this is where, we always hear the fortune's in the follow-up. Well, that is probably more true in this system than any other system out there, because the follow-up is where you're going to ask them if they're interested in the business and where you're going to get them to look at a presentation, right? So say it once again. Once you've sent the silver to somebody, what do you say when you call them back?
Sure. So I call up Bob, and Bob says hello. I say, hey, Bob, it's Pete Olsen from the free silver giveaway. How are you? And he'll say, hey, Pete, how are you? And I'll tell him, terrific. Hey, Bob, I was just following up. I just wanted to make sure that you got the silver that I mailed you. And inevitably he'll say, yeah, I got it today, or I got it yesterday. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. That was really neat. And I'll say, hey, no problem at all. As I mentioned to you before, I always like to follow up and just make sure the silver arrives safe and sound, so you know that I sent it out. And also, Bob, I was wondering, would you be interested in learning how I'm making money promoting this free silver giveaway by mailing out free silver just like I did with you? And it would go something like this. Hey, Bob, I was wondering, would you be interested in learning how I'm making money promoting this free silver giveaway by mailing out free silvers just like I did with you? Like I said, 9 out of 10 times they'll say, yes, I would. Can you tell me about it? And I'll say, hey, I can't tell you about it now, okay, because I'm headed to another appointment. But how soon would you have some quiet time in front of your computer? All right, so you're posturing, you're busy. You can't get into it now. You're a busy guy or you're a busy gal. Okay, posturing is really important.
Yeah, Pete,
Dave talks about that. Ray's been a master at that.
Stop right there, because there's a couple key things that you did there that I want people to understand, that you studying this and becoming a master at it yourself now, because you've learned from the successful people like Ray Higdon, like Dave Angelo. There's a couple of key things that you did and said there that the average person or the brand new person probably went right over their head. Number one, you used what you call posture, which is to say, hey, listen, I can't tell you about it right now because I'm really busy. I got another appointment to go to. I've got to get off here. But when, so you used posture to take the focus off of you sitting on the phone and having to explain everything to them. Number two, you used two words that I think are so key, and I've been training this for 4 years here at Numis, is you didn't say to Bob, hey, Bob, when can you? Or Bob, I'm gonna send you over something, can you please? You simply said two words that make all the difference in the world to a prospect. You said, hey, Bob, how soon? How soon replaces can you, when can you, do you think you'll be able to, everything. You replace all of that language that doesn't create urgency to how soon. How soon would you have some quiet time to get in front of your computer? So basically he's going to say, okay, in his mind it's going to trigger, okay, how soon can I do that? Let me think. Well, I can do that right now, or I can do that in 2 hours, or I can do it in 15 minutes. He's going to take his next available time that he has and he's going to schedule you into it. When can you is a whole different deal. When can I don't know. I might be able to get around to it tomorrow, or I don't know when I can. But so it's that how soon, and people don't understand that is two key words that if you want to become a master recruiter, you will replace all of that other stuff you've been saying when you talk to a prospect. Scheduling the next appointment is how soon can you do it. So take us through it now, Pete. So you've postured, you've told him how soon, you've booked an appointment for him to watch a presentation. Now what?
Well, a lot of times they'll say, yeah, you can just give me a call tonight, and I'll say, super, Bob, that's great. What works better for you, 7 o'clock or 9 o'clock? So I'll give an option. I want to get a specific time. I just don't want to say, hey, I'll call you tonight. You got to have that specific time. You want to be in control of the call. So he'll say, well, 9 o'clock would be better because the kids are in bed and everything will be quiet. And I'll say, great, Bob, no problem. I'll call you at 9 o'clock. Be sure be in front of your computer when I call. Have a pen and a notepad so you can take some notes, okay? Got to run. I'll call you at 9.
And what that does, Pete, and we know this, is that if you told him it was a 10-minute video, then he's going to get in front of his computer at 8:50 and watch it right before you call. If you told him it was a 4-minute video that he needs to watch, then he's going to get in front of his computer at 8:56. So, that's why you want to have that time, because it ties them down to a commitment that they have to watch it by that time. So, okay, you've got them tied down to a follow-up time. And guys, I know that Pete's given you a lot of detail about what he does. And I can tell you there's only one reason why most people aren't successful in this business. It's because they're not willing to do what successful people like Pete do every day. Pete does this every day, and he's now seeing the compounding effect of 2 years of hard work and 2 years of becoming very skilled at doing this, and that's why he's seeing the success that he's seeing today. And that's why you see people like Ray Higdon and Dave Angelo. They can go out and recruit anytime they want because they've mastered this skill. And the great thing about this skill set that Pete's developed is nobody can ever take this away from you, Pete, can they?
No, sir. No.
I mean, you now, the 2 years that you spent developing this skill set will make you millions of dollars over your lifetime now. And that's what's so powerful about what we're teaching here tonight is if you will just embrace what we're talking about and understand that this is developing skills that no one can ever take away from you. So talk to me, Pete, about what you do now when you call him back at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, so I call him at 9 o'clock. I'll say, hey, Bob, it's Pete. Hey, Pete, how are you? Great. Are you in front of your computer? Yep. All right, terrific. Let me give you the website that you're going to type in, and I'll give them the www.numisnetwork.com / your Numis name. And I'll ask them, and Dave taught me this so well, I don't tell them what they should see. I'll say, what do you see? Okay? Because a lot of times people will just say, oh, yeah, if you tell them what they should see, they'll say, I see that, but they really don't. So you ask them, what do you see? And they'll say, I see a group of people in the center of the page and Numis in the top left-hand corner. I'll say, terrific. Here's what I want you to do. And what I have them do is I have them watch that cartoon video, that 2-minute video right in the center of the page. So I'll say, hey, Bob, this is what I want you to do. First video I want you to watch is that 2-minute right in the center of the page. Then I want you to click on videos. Do that for me real quick. See the feature videos on the right-hand side? I want you to watch those top 5 videos on the right-hand side. He said, great. All right, I see that. Fantastic, Bob. I'll call you when it's over. Got to run. He says, thank you. So he watches those videos. I think all those 6 videos are about 32 minutes, 33 minutes. I'll call him back in 35 or 40 minutes. It gives him a few extra minutes to get something to drink or use the restroom or if there was an interruption or what have you. And I'll call him back and I'll say, hey, Bob, it's Peter. Did you finish? Yep, just finished. Great. And well, the term that I like, and I think it's the magic term, and Jake has one which I think is actually fantastic too, is What did you like best about what you just saw? And I don't say a word. What did you like best about what you just saw? Okay? And the average person is going to say they'll name 3 or 4 things that they like. The silver, the opportunity, I like the freedom of working from home, I like the money you can make, I like the vacations that you guys talk about. Now, some people won't answer that question and say, well, I've got a few questions for you. And I'll rephrase the question again. I'll say, great, Bob, I'm so glad that you have some questions for me. But first, I asked you, what did you like best about what you just saw? So I take back control of the call. Okay, you always want to be in control and be posturing that, hey, it's a privilege for them to see this opportunity. Okay, so you got to be in control of the call. So he'll say, well, I like this and that and this, but I do have a few questions. I'll say, fantastic. What are your questions? And like we talked about before, I'll let him answer. I'll let him ask 1 or 2 questions, and if I feel it's going to be a lot of questions, I'm going to take that opportunity and then do that process of getting that edification and getting Dave on the phone for the 3-way call if Dave's unavailable, yourself or whomever that may be. And if I ask them what they like best about what they saw, and they tell me, God, this is the greatest thing I've seen. I've been looking for something like this. I love the ability to work from home. This was just absolutely fantastic. Then at that point, I'm not going to get Dave on the phone. I'm simply going to ask. I'm simply going to state one comment, and it's a comment. It sounds like you're ready to get started, Bob.
Yeah, and I like to say it even a little bit different than that. I like to say, it sounds like you're ready to get started, right, Bob?
I love that.
Yeah, so I like right. So they're going to answer, it sounds like you're ready to get started, right, Bob? Not sounds like you're ready to get started. Aren't you, Bob? It's like, right, Bob? Just agree with me because it sounds like you're ready to get started, right? So, and I found that that's one of the most powerful things. It's amazing to me when you get somebody to tell you what they liked about what they saw, and then you tell them, okay, great, it sounds like you're ready to get started, right? How many times they will say, yeah, I'm ready to get started. Great. See that button up there that says join now? Click there and just go through the process. And I'll just sit here with you on the phone while you get it. I'm going to go grab some water, but go ahead and get enrolled, and I'll sit here on the line with you while you're finishing that up. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Very, very powerful. And people be amazed, and I think that's a question they're afraid to say is you got to ask for the sale. And when they're showing you all that and telling you how much they like it, you just simply put that out. Sounds like you're ready to get started, right, Bob? And when you say that with conviction and power, and they feel the music in your voice, and that you're committed, it's amazing how many people will start to say, yeah, I am. And I go right to that application right online and take that information and don't hesitate.
Now, let's go one step further, because one of the things that I've found that you guys do a lot that maybe some other people and other teams don't do as much, but it's also probably one of the reasons that your teams, you and Dave and Tiger Leadership, have one of the, if not the highest retention rates in the company, is that once you get somebody in and they've enrolled, let's say you didn't do the 3-way call with Dave, then a lot of times you guys will take the opportunity to, once they're enrolled, to do a 3-way call then to solidify the enrollment and edify, and they get introduced to the upline. Dave does it with me. He calls me and says, hey, I just wanted to introduce you to somebody real quick, one of the founders of the company, because it solidifies the sale, and it makes that person feel really good about what they just did, and that, hey, I've got upline leadership that's going to help me be successful. Talk a little bit about how you guys do that.
Absolutely. We just call it a welcome call, and we do it really, very impromptu. We'll just call them up and say, hey, Mike, I just want to take a quick minute. I've got Dave Angelo on the phone, your upline 5-star executive brand partner, and he just wanted to take a second to say hello to you and welcome you to the team. So with that, Dave, this is Michael. Michael, this is Mr. David Angelo, so Dave will just talk to him for a couple minutes and say, hey, welcome to the team, and it's great to have you, and they'll do a little chit-chat, but it's really short. It's about a minute, but it really makes that person feel special that right out of the box, we're already thinking about them. We're already helping. We're already letting them know that not only do Pete's there for your support, but you've got Dave too anytime. They've got Dave's information, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah,
and
so important.
Makes it feel they're not on an island.
It's just one of those little things that I see your team doing, and it's like they say, little things make a big difference, and I think that makes a big difference is the welcome calls. If you guys are out there on the call tonight and you're not doing welcome calls with your new team members, with your upline, or your upline 5-star, or myself, or whoever, work that in, especially if you're on my challenge team. That's something you definitely should be doing. Pete, let's take a couple seconds to open it up to questions. If you have any questions out there, type them into the box or just raise your hand and I'll open up your line so that we can hear if you have any questions for Pete tonight. Pete, I want to thank you once again for coming on, buddy. You are just absolutely doing a fantastic job. We're so excited to see your success. And, if people knew that they could simply just keep doing it for 2 years and ultimately they would become a master recruiter and a master team builder like yourself, I think less people would quit our industry. And we got to get that word out there and let people know that, hey, this isn't something that just happens overnight. This is something that you have to become good at. The way I like to equate it is kind of the way you did, Pete, is I like to tell people, hey, if you have a job right now, think about the first day that you went to that job. Were you really, really good at that job the very first day? A lot of people come into this business and they think, I'm going to be good at network marketing in a week. And the reality is they still sucked at their job the first week after they'd been there for 2 weeks or a month. But they've been there for 2 years or 5 years or 10 years, and now they're the expert. Now they're irreplaceable. And, that happens in network marketing too. But you have to work it just like you would a job. You're at your job a lot of people are at their job 8 hours a day for 20 years before they become good at it. So let's go to a few questions that we have out there, Pete. Let's see. We got one from Daryl. Hey, Daryl, are you out there? Can you hear me? Daryl?
Yes, I can.
Hey, buddy, you got a question for us?
Or just curious with the welcome calls or the three-way calls, what would be a good way to arrange for that? Do you have people just call you or text you or?
Yeah, let me have Pete take that one, because that's important, Pete, because I think different leaders like to be notified differently about three-way calls. Like for me, if you're going to do a three-way call with me, what I would prefer is that you simply send me a quick text and say, hey, I'd like to do a three-way with you. Are you available? And then I'll text you back and say yes. And then you'll try to set it up. And that's usually the way the leaders, but I think with some leaders out there like Dave, you guys might do a little, how do you work it with your team, Pete?
No, it's real similar. So what we teach our people is, when you get someone on a video, simply text me and say, hey, Pete, it's Daryl. I've got a gentleman that just went on the video, and would you be available for a three-way at such and such time? And that way I know, I'll let them know yes or no. Most likely it's going to be yes. I'll make myself available. But that way I know if there's a three-way, if that's going to happen, I'm going to be expecting it about a certain time or in that area. I'll be on alert for it, and I'll stay off the phone and so on and so forth. I also tell my people, if have a couple different people that you can do three-way calls with. So if I'm not available, I tell my people, contact Dave. I know if Dave's not available, I contact Chris or you call Chris or Jake, and use Jim Lewis, and so on and so forth. So it's important to have a couple different people. Most of the time, your sponsor will be there for you, but if they're not, it's great to have that backup just in case you need them.
And that's awesome, Pete. Let me say one of the things that I caught tonight, because I was kind of taking notes. You can see I took some notes here. But here's one of the things I caught Pete say tonight that I think is one of the keys that you have to understand about three-way calls. If you're doing a three-way call with Pete or Dave or Ray Higdon or a top leader in our company, what you're going to get the opportunity to do is to listen over and over and over again to the top recruiters in the company and what they are saying to recruit people. So why wouldn't you want to do three-way calls? I mean, literally what Pete was able to do is he got to hear Dave Angelo pitching 100 times until he got the lingo down. He got what Dave was saying, how he was saying it to people, and how he was recruiting them. You have to become a master recruiter in this business. You have to become a master at three-way calls if you want to be a master recruiter. So, get those three-way calls lined up with the master recruiter so that you can hear what they're saying, so you can hear how they're saying it, so you can hear their tone, their positioning, their posturing, as Ray calls it. And if you do enough three-way calls, that's just automatically going to rub off on you, and you're going to develop that skill of how to talk to people about Numis and how to recruit people the way that Pete and Dave and Ray and the top recruiters in this business can consistently do day in and day out. Pete, it's been awesome tonight, buddy. I really appreciate you coming on this the webinar and sharing with everybody how you got to Cabo, the secret to getting to Cabo. We want to have hundreds of people in Cabo and right out of the gate, buddy. So let me ask you one last question, Pete. What is your goal for Cabo? Where do you want to be? What level are you shooting for?
I want 150 points, and I've never gotten the top level before on a trip. So every day I want to keep getting better, and every contest I want to keep getting better. And I want to reach the 150 points, and it's doable. And if you just do that compounding effect, that steady, consistent effort, things will work out that way. And you talk to enough people, great things will happen because the ratio will appear.
That's awesome. One of the things that we talked about, one of the things that you and I talked about the other day was how so many things that you've done in the past, all of the prospecting, all of the talking to people in the last year, you told me that it was amazing to you how many people were coming back to you now as they see you successful. A lot of those people you talked to, 6 months or a year ago or 3 months ago, they're still watching you on Facebook. They're still watching what you're doing, and it might have not been the right time for them. Now they're coming back to you and going, hey, Pete, that thing you talked, kind of like you did with Dave, right? You came back to Dave 9 months later. I mean, think about this, guys. Pete came to Dave Angelo 9 months later after the first time he talked to him. A lot of people get so discouraged in this business because people tell them no right away. What if you knew that every person that you talked to, that 9 months later they'd come back to you and they'd turn into a Pete Olsen? You'd talk to a lot more people, wouldn't you? So, Pete, it's been awesome, buddy. Really appreciate you, and can't wait to see you at that 150-point level in Cabo, taking that private limo to the all-inclusive and staying in that presidential suite, buddy.
Hey, thanks so much, and we'll be working hard towards that, and thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure.
You got it, buddy. Have a great night. All right, guys, thanks a lot for being on here tonight. We did record this call and this webinar, and we will be reposting it. So thanks a lot, guys. Have a great rest of your week, and we will talk to you real soon. Bye-bye.